Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of the WayFinder podcast, and this is the introduction to the education series. So, to begin, as with my discussion on healthcare, I think education is largely an individual responsibility. This does not mean that everyone should go the way of the autodidact. It just means that to be educated means that you've learned something, and to be as blunt as possible, no one can learn for you, and the individual has to learn for themselves with parents, teachers, and the rest of society there to guide them along. This means that beyond formal education, there's a lot of learning that still needs to happen. I would even posit that the role of formal education is to develop a yearning for lifelong learning, so that people are able to figure out what they need to figure out as they move on through life. Beyond that, so the real question of this podcast series is what should the individual strive to learn to make it in this world and in society and in the universe at large? I think that broadly it can fall into three categories. There's education for personal life, for what I like to call paraprofessional life, which is sort of the in between. That can fall and something that falls in that paraprofessional is such a thing like things like seeking a promotion or even networking or even starting your own enterprises. Like those things are not quite personal or professional. This in between landscape that needs to be understood. And then there's professional life, which is what you do to get yourself an income, or to get money to provide for your needs and or your wants. And these three categories, I think, can be sorted into different models. Like so, these are the three main areas I think that education falls under, and you can structure them however way you want to structure them, but they need to be put into models to be able to actually have a feasible education system. So I've chosen to discuss two models that I've sort of come up with in my time thinking about this, and I think the model. So these are the two models right here. I think the model on the right is much more better. Is much better for the 21st century than the one on the left. The reason why I'm saying is that I have largely subscribed to the model on the left. I don't think I've gone as far in life as I would have liked to gone by my own standards. I think based on my standards of where I think a young mid 20s, late 20s person should be in life, I think the one on the right is the approach. So you sort of take care of your health first, and then sort of your technical and business skills, you develop those to be able to get enough money to be able to survive in the world, given the variations that will happen. And then as you go through that, you develop your communication skills, and then later in life, which is sort of the third phase of your adult life, you then develop what I like to call it's wisdom is hard to codify. And I think I've been certain, and that's why I think I went wrong in my personal life. Is I read a lot of books, a lot of different things, and I tried a lot of different approaches to living, and I was trying to really figure out a set of wisdom from it. And the closest I could come to was that you need to be ethical. And what does ethics mean? And how you treat people is essentially what I came to is developing a lot of people. I don't like the word people skills, but developing a lot of what I like to call um, yeah, it ended up being more communication skills and knowing how to lay my cards on the table and sort of being upfront with people. It ended up being just behavioral things for myself that I ended up developing. And I wouldn't say my technical and business skills are completely null, but they're not as developed as I would like them to be in order to take care of myself and my sort of needs in this world. And so I think most typical young people will find themselves sort of where I found myself, which is that if you happen to grow up in the Western world, most of all this, most unless you do happen to be in a different situation, but I found that most people end up in a situation where all this different areas that from the health the way to business, money provision, and sort of understanding the world is sort of done for you. And then at the beginning of young adulthood, you're sort of thrust out there to figure it out on your own. And for most people, this is largely beginning in the university period. Some people waste that time and learn real roughly afterwards. But I think this is roughly what happens is that then people have to figure out, okay, what's the most important thing. And I think what a lot of my peers did that I didn't sort of do was there was a prioritization of technical skills, which I do have a few, but I prioritized sort of figuring out sort of what I think are proper ethics, because I this is okay, this is a little bit of a sidebar now, is that I grew up Christian, and most of my ethics were born of a Christian faith. And I had a period in my life where I didn't ascribe to my Christian faith anymore, and so and that coincided with sort of university beginning. So for me, it was a lot of I spent a lot of my time to figure that out, and as opposed to learning the sort of technical skills you're supposed to learn in university to be able to land a good job. So while I think, but fortunately for me, I found a research experience which was able to give me some technical skills. Which unfortunately I'm not in that area of research anymore, or that area of work. But anyways, I found myself sort of at the beginning again, and at the beginning again, I tried to see how I could look more broadly than myself, and that's why I came to these two models of education. So right now, I'm out of work and my health is sufficient. So but I think that's one thing that's always going to remain the same, is that bottom level of taking care of your health is always going to be priority number one. Now it depends on what else you choose to stack on top of that and how you choose to stack it. So I find myself doing a lot more skills assessments and finding myself lacking, and that's what I've noticed about what I've finally noticed about sort of the job market is that on the job market, they're looking for, as I look for jobs, they're looking for sort of people with sort of predetermined skill sets. As for me, I treated technical work like in a MacGyver sort of way. I for my research, I focused more on so I did scientific research up until 2018, and I focused on the hypothesis and the research methods, and then I figured out the technical requirements to get the job done. I sort of MacGyvered my way through it. And as such, I never really saw myself as someone learning a series of technical methods. As opposed to, I was seeking to be a good scientific researcher in general, and I thought this was the wise approach to take. But now, sort of in the adult world of job searching, it appears that most employers, like I said, are looking for a set of skills and not an employee that can get the job done and maybe figure things out. They're looking for skill sets, and that's disheartening to me. As someone who feels like his education broadened his perspective much more than gave him a skill set, that's really deeply disappointing. So beyond that, and beyond that, there's sort of the world of the side hustle, which is what I'm also going to explore. That's a world that I didn't really know much about while I was in school. Again, my fault, and it's something that I'm planning to teach myself about. So I feel like I'm catching up on that, and that's okay. But this is a world of untapped income streams that will continue to widen as we move forward. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram who are developing active businesses in sort of even businesses that are taking them entirely off the sort of corporate ladder, which is quite a place to be. It's quite lovely to not have to worry about a boss. So it's quite a fascinating world of business and technical skills that I sort of didn't really explore to my fullest. But it's fine. That's why we get to start again, and it's rough. It's not an easy place to be, but I hope that by going through this podcast, I will get to a place where I have something that's more grounded and more open to giving people sort of well thought out ideas if they happen to be in the same place as I am. And that's the main reason why I'm doing this, is that if I happen to find myself in the situation again, or if I happen to find somebody who's in a similar situation, then we have the resources and tools to really help them out. So overall, the reason why I think going with the model on the right is better than the model on the left is that the model on the right affords you the flexibility in life that to then apply whatever wisdom you get. And I feel like I was trying to get wisdom through books and through reading and through my life experiences too. But I feel like as you go through life, as you engage in the other aspects of life, you gather wisdom. And as one of my favorite writers of late and thinkers of late states, if you want to be a philosopher king, you should be a king first and then a philosopher. I think in my youth I got that wrong, and then I aimed to want to be a philosopher and then maybe a king. But I think I got that backwards, and it's okay. In the process, I can't say, and that's the thing, I can't even like say extremely what the wisdom I got was, except for extreme humility, and I didn't get a lot of money. But moving forward, I'm going to try and really understand more on the right and sort of figure out a way to talk more about it in a way that's actually sensible. So yeah, that's the education podcast. It's going to be about the model on the right and how to sort of implement that in life and why I think it's even better. So what I'm going to be doing is a lot of contrasting the model on the left and model on the right. And there's no really big difference between them except in the ordering of things. And it's path dependent, highly path dependent, right? in the fact that if you don't follow one with the other one, then and health is always something that you should be taking care of, right? And health, that's a whole domain on its own. So we'll start there, and then I'll discuss why even a little bit of wisdom will help you take care of your health, and how all these domains, while they look like they're discretely separated from each other, they're actually not. They actually flow into each other. So it's rough to talk about them as separate things, and that makes it tough. Which means in the world of a lot, what is the most important thing to know? What are the most important things to really know to keep you from going bust? And anyways, that's the education intro. Hope you enjoy.